Hey everybody, Zero here, and I wanted to make another video, but I didn't really have much that I could do it on, so I decided to make a comparison video between the 3DS and the 3DS XL. I know there's a lot of videos out there already on this, but I haven't done one myself personally, so I decided to do it between the two red systems so that they would be as similar looking as possible, and that the only differences we'd be comparing would be what's actually different about them and not just the color. So basically you've probably seen videos on the 3DS and on the XL. I'm just gonna, kind of have them both side by side so that you can see some of the differences, like actually right next to each other. So as you can see, when they're closed, obviously these are both red models. You still have your little blue indicator light on both of them right now. There's also a yellow Wi-Fi light on the side of each of them, which you can't see at this angle. And then right now there's no light currently at the top because there's no Street Pass or notifications or updates or anything. But overall design, the original 3DS is metallic. It's sparkly, like the paint is sparkly. The top portion is coated in a casing of clear plastic over the paint, and it's very reflective, so if I were to go like that, you can see my mouth moving and you can see my hand and my bracelets and everything, because it's completely reflective. That also means that it does show fingerprints pretty well, but they do wipe off kind of easy. On this model, the XL, you have more of a matte finish for the top, but it's not 100% matte. Like, it doesn't feel rough like the DSi did. It doesn't feel like that, graphite rough texture. It's pretty smooth, and it's a nice red color. A little bit more actual red than this. This is kind of like a darker blood red color. They say that this doesn't show fingerprints because it's not glossy, but if your hands are kind of greasy, or if you just like ate something, and you touch it, it will leave a little smudge, but they wipe off a lot easier and they don't show as much. So, black hinge on this one, whereas the hinge is still red on this one. If we flip them over, on the bottom it's pretty different. You still have like the main information and the serial number on both of them. The text on this one is black, whereas the text on this one is silver. You have chrome up here on the very top of the system and more black plastic up here. The stylus is black on the XL, and it's located on the what's actually the right side of the system. And the stylus is located on the top, what would be the top left of the original. It's also a metallic telescoping stylus, so it expands as you pull on it, whereas the stylus on the XL is just plastic like the DSi stylus. Not too big of a difference on the R and L buttons. These are just a little bit more plasticky, whereas these ones are kind of clickier and just more metallic. So if we were to open these up, obviously have Mario 3D Land on there right now. And on here, I'm not on anything, but I do have Luigi's Mansion, which I'm in the middle of playing, so it says resume. So obviously the biggest difference on the inside, oops, I didn't mean to activate the camera. The biggest difference on the inside is that it's all black matte finish on the inside of the XL. And that's how it is for all of them. So no matter what color you get, blue, red, white, silver, black, whatever they come in, it's always going to be a black matte finish on the inside. The original 3DS's, the top was a glossy black, and the bottom was whatever color the system was, but a different shade than the top. So that's one shade. This is a different shade. It's kind of hard to tell, but you can tell a little bit more if you were to turn it on its side. This is more of a blood red, this is kind of just like red, and then this is more of like a bright candy apple red. So All the 3DS originals have a shiny black top and a glossy finish on the bottom of whatever color the system is. The button for power is square on here. The button for power is a circle on here, and it's not really raised up. You kind of have to press your finger in there to get it. Also, this select home and start buttons, it's a strip where you can kind of feel the buttons underneath, but they're kind of all like connected under this one strip. Over here, they're all separate buttons. Even though they have breaks in front, in between each one, they don't feel like actual buttons, like the A, B, X, Y buttons. When you push on them, you can feel that you pushed it, but they don't click down. Like, you can't click them up and down. You just barely feel the press. They obviously did not add a second analog stick on the right side of the XL, because that would have been unfair to people who got the original 3DS. You can kind of get a good idea of the size of the screens here. It looks like even the bottom screen is larger than the top screen on the original 3DS. Another change would be the depth slider. You have a little green light on here telling you that there's 3D, and this little silver thing slides up and down. It's very loose. It's hard to keep it in one position. Whereas on here, they've gotten rid of the 3D indicator, and this little plastic piece goes up and down. But when you get to the bottom, you have to click it harder in order to lock it off of 3D. Trying to think of some other differences here. Not too much of a difference in the buttons, other than here they're glossy and metallic, whereas here they're just plastic, matte finish. But as far as like shape and size and clickiness and all that, they're about the same. Some people have talked about the sound, volume, quality, the speakers on the XL versus the original. I've noticed definitely a difference in the volume. I would say that the volume on the original 3DS is louder. Some people thought that because there were more circle holes here in the speaker that the XL would be louder, but I can barely hear my XL most of the time, and I don't really have as much of a problem with the original 3DS. The analog slider is pretty much the same on both. I don't know if you could just hear that there, but the volume was a little bit higher on the original 3DS, as I was just mentioning, and both of these systems have their volume turned up all the way at the moment. The 3D effect, some people say, is easier to notice on the XL because of the larger screen. I actually find it to be the opposite. I noticed the 3D effect instantly when I turned it up on the original 3DS. I don't know why that is, but that's just how it is for me. Maybe it's different for different people. But I would agree that the sweet spot is much larger on the XL, so you don't have to look at an exact certain spot. You can kind of move your head around a little bit while you're playing, whereas with the original 3DS, you kind of gotta keep it pretty still, which is kind of annoying. This does get lots and lots of fingerprints on it, which is kind of annoying. Also, the bottom edges are, even though they are round, it's not as rounded. This is a much more gradual edge on the XL, and because this is such a harder material, because it's that like metallic material, it really digs into your palms and hurts after a while when you're gripping the system and playing for extended periods of time, whereas the softer plastic and the wider round edges don't really hurt your hands on the XL. The cameras are the same on both of them. Nothing really to say about that. So there's a look again at the two systems. For a size comparison, we can do like this. It doesn't really look like the XL is that much bigger, but when you open it up, you just notice how much bigger the screens are. That's not completely just because the system itself is bigger, it's because the screen goes farther to the edge of the system, whereas on the original 3DS, they left much more space, a bigger gap. They didn't, they could have kept the system the same size and made the screen go closer to the edge, and it would have had a larger screen. but the system itself is not that much bigger, but it is just bigger enough that it makes it kind of harder to carry around. The 3DS is basically the same size as, like, you know, a DSL, DS Lite, or I'm sorry, a DSi, a DS Lite. You can throw it in a pocket, you can throw it in a small carry case. The XL, the cases for it are humongous, they're almost like briefcases. You can't fit this probably in most of your pockets unless you have like giant cargo pants or like trip pants. So even though it only looks like it's, you know, another inch, you know, longer, and they're about the same, almost the same thickness, it's a little bit thicker as far as like maybe an inch this way and then an inch this way. It just, that extra inch on each side just makes it so much bigger that it's not really, you know, a fun thing to carry around. Even with a smaller case like this one right here, this pretty much just fits snugly in there. You put it under those straps and then close it. Even with a zipper case like that, where it's like pretty much the size of the system, you can't really like put a clip on this and hang it off of like your bag, you know, your book bag or whatever. Whereas with this one, I have a small Hori multi-pouch case that I imported from Japan. It just slides in there, you zipper it up, and it's got a clip on it, and you can just hang it from like a bag or whatever. It's much more lightweight, it's much smaller, so you can do that, whereas on this one you really probably can't. You gotta throw this like inside your book bag or something. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to give you a comparison of the two systems. The graphics, like some people said, on the XL do look a little bit more jagged just because it's blowing up the image. It's not a higher resolution, it's the same resolution, just, you know, blown up. You won't notice too big of a difference. You'll just see maybe some of the things that were jagged on this system are going to be a little bit more noticeable, but that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys liked my comparison, and I will see you in the next video.